I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains that last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
All right, y'all, we're here. We're live. It's Thursday night. You're watching Buster Unmasked, and you know the spiel. You can catch us on YouTube. You can catch us on Facebook. You can catch us on X, but most importantly, every single Thursday night at 10 p.m. Central Time. And yes, I mean tonight, 10 p.m. Central Time, you can catch us on the Genesis TV network. Look, guys, tonight is the night. You just seen the little teaser. Man, my guest tonight, look here, guys. This dude is obviously one of the most decorated professional wrestlers in the industry, especially around our area. Look, he's opinionated. He's outspoken. He believes that pro wrestling should be done and presented the proper way. He is the face and the brains behind Pro Wrestling Mid-South, and he is your current AIWF World Heavyweight Champion, none other than the Golden Boy, Greg Anthony. Greg.
How's it going, guys?
What's up, dude?
Man, that was a great intro, man. I should have you go everywhere with me.
There you go, man. I practice almost every night, dude. So,
right.
Dude, man, it's my pleasure to have you here, man. This is one that I've been looking forward to, man.
Well, also, I'm looking forward to being on here and telling the story.
Well, look, dude. Here's the thing about Greg Anthony that I know. This is the first time me and you've ever actually even spoken.
Sure.
But look, I talk to everybody, and you're one of the guys that people are divided on, dude. There's people that love Greg Anthony, and then there's people that hate Greg Anthony. And so let's just start there, man. What do you feel like the reason for that is, dude?
I mean, it's a lot of different reasons. Like you said, I'm very opinionated. You know, I think a certain way. You know, a lot of it comes from, you know, early in my career, you know, like being as opinionated as I was and things like that. And I've really mellowed out the last 5 years. So, you know, a lot of the people that knew me 15, 20 years ago and maybe hate me from something that happened back then, they don't know the same Greg Anthony, right?
Right.
But one of my guys actually that's been working for me for probably 8 or 9 years, you know, not long ago, he came up to me and he said, you know, I've been working for you for this long, and you know, you've always done what you said you're going to do. You hold people to a standard. You know, I've never seen you wrong anybody. You know what I mean? So anyone that has heat with you, it has to be because they did something bad or they did something wrong. And sometimes I feel that way, and sometimes I feel like maybe I was a little too tough on certain guys or certain situations. But it is what it is. I mean, I really don't hold any grudges against anybody as far as, you know, wanting anybody any harm or wishing, you know, that they didn't have a successful whatever with their families and
Right.
things like that. But there's some people that I'm not going to do business with anymore. It's not that I don't like them. It's not that I hate them, but it's just like, you know, I'm not interested in handling that anymore.
Right. The wrestling business is you know this, the wrestling business can be a snake's den. I mean, it really can, dude. It's hard. And if you stick by your word and do what you say you're going to do, there's a lot of people that don't like that, man. It's as simple as that. It's no different in real life. People
Well,
who honor their word and stick to what they say always have a lot of heat.
here's the thing too. Like when I broke in the business, you know, in this area especially, um, it was just people were allowed to do those kind of things. They were allowed to lie to you and say, "Oh, I'm not this," or stab you in the back and go work for another company. And then 3 months later, they didn't like how that other company was doing it, so then they come back to you and you let them come back. And it was just this toxic Ferris wheel thing going round and round. And like, I just got tired of dealing with that kind of stuff. And I would tell people if I ever ran my own company, I was going to run it a certain way, and that's the way I've tried to run it for. We'll be going. Well, it's been over 10 years since we started with in Union City and all that, but Pro Wrestling Mid-South itself will be 10 years in October.
Wow. I didn't realize it had been there that long, man. I didn't realize you'd been doing it that long. Uh, that's a feat into itself, man. Y'all run. I mean, your home base is Dyersburg, and you run every single Saturday night, but you also run Ripley.
Mm-hmm. Ripley, Tennessee, every Friday night.
Every Friday night, so twice a week, pretty much every week.
Yeah.
You're putting guys to work, man. And that's the thing about the wrestling business, man. Guys need to work. I mean, that's how you learn the business. That's how you learn what to do and not to do, is by being in there and doing it, man.
That's the only way to learn professional wrestling, is to do it, to be in front of a live crowd and be able to hone your skills. And I feel like we give people an ample opportunity to that. You know, we're running every Friday and Saturday night, but there's been times where we've ran 3 times a week. We were doing Mondays in Memphis at one point, and we were doing Thursdays in Memphis at one point. And then last year we were doing Thursdays in Jackson we had a 6-month deal with a building there. So I mean, we're constantly trying to expand and stretch out, and you know, trying to get guys more work and stuff like that. I've got close to 20 trainees right now, and that's
Wow.
that's filtering into the company, and we're trying to get those guys going and get them guys work and make sure that they're the next generation of guys, because you know, I'm 42 years old. I can't do it forever as much as I want to.
Right.
You know, at some point I'm gonna have to hang them up, and I want to leave not just Pro Wrestling Mid-South, but I want to leave our area in a good place when I do.
Right. Look, Brian Rogers says, been waiting to see this one. I've been waiting to do this one. Mark McGee, he's here tonight with us. He said, good evening, all. What's up, Mark? Glad you're watching. Mark's back, and he said, I enjoy the Golden Boy product. I see put out over social media. And me and you were kind of chatting about that. Here's the thing, man. I know everything about pretty much every other company around here, but Pro Wrestling Mid-South is the company that I have the hardest time finding anything about, because y'all do not put a lot of footage out on social media at all. And your guys, here's something I noticed about you guys. You guys are self-contained. The guys who work for you respect you. They respect the company. And man, here's the thing. I've had Blaze Ray on a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Man, gloats over Greg Anthony, man, in Pro Wrestling Mid-South. All I've heard is Greg Anthony's a good leader, man, from all these guys. That's the one thing here. We opened up with, you're kind of one of them dudes that divide people. They either love you or hate you. But, and here's the thing. I talk to all kind of people. Even the people that don't like Greg Anthony cannot deny your talent. It's simple as that. They never have nothing bad to say about Greg Anthony, the pro wrestler.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. And there's, like I said, there's guys that I don't jive with anymore that, you know, maybe they lied to me and said, hey, I can't be this booking because, you know, my car broke down and they were at another show and, you know, they left because I had them put over so-and-so. You know, there's all kinds of guys like that. And like, we may not be able to do business together, but I mean, I don't hate them. I don't right. dislike anybody. And I always feel like I always give everyone a fair shake. You know, all I ask you to do is come in, be on time, do what I ask you to do to the best of your ability. And then, you know, we'll work everything else out. You know, 10 years ago, dude, I would get asked up about all kinds of stuff. I would get mad. I would yell. I would cuss. I would be beside myself on some stuff. If someone messed up a finish or did something or said something wrong, I would blow a gasket. It takes a lot now for me to blow a gasket. The guys that have been with me, especially the last 5 years, they pretty much all came to me and said, man, you've really mellowed out. You know, I just finally realized one thing was we do so much wrestling. I don't have time to nitpick and be mad about something that happened this week, because guess what? We got next week. We got Friday and Saturday night next week. Let's just move past it. You did this wrong, but let's fix it. This is why we do it this way. And let's move on, you know? And so it's just, I think it's been a healthier environment that way. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen, because there are times where I do have to get loud about stuff, but other than very minimal times now, I feel like I've eased up tremendously.
Dude, I think a lot of that comes with just age, man. I know me personally, when I was young, man, I was a hothead, and the older I get, the more mellow, the more even keel I get, dude.
Right.
So look, man, you mentioned breaking in the business, and you kind of got a unique story about how you actually had your first real pro wrestling match. So tell us about this, man.
So, you know, myself and John Michael and a bunch of other guys that were around my age in New Bern, Tennessee, you know, me and John Michael went to school together. Me and John Michael's a few years younger than me, but we went to elementary school, junior high, high school together. Okay. And, you know, at this time I'm 18 years old, you know, he's like 16, I think. And Memphis Championship Wrestling, which was a developmental territory at the time, ran by Terry Story, you know, Terry Golden. You know, they were coming to New Bern once a month to do a house show pretty much. And at this time they had American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. They had Shooter Schultz. They had R-Truth. They had William Regal. They had Reckless Youth, who was one of my...
Lance Cade.
Lance Cade, that whole crew, you know. I mean, it was just stacked with people. It was ridiculous. So John Michael's dad is actually a police officer in New Bern. So he found Terry Golden and said, hey, listen, my son and some of his friends, they're trying to break in the business. Can you help them? And Terry, being the genius that he is sometimes, he saw, well, here's two local kids right here. So he had us come in for a tryout pretty much, right? And well, let me back up. He went ahead and he talked to us a little bit and said, hey, next month when we come back, you guys are going to have an intermission match. But I need you to be here early so we can, you know, you can work out and I can see you and that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
So we went around for the entire month telling everybody, hey, we're professional wrestlers. We're going to wrestle on this show. we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You know, we were excited, right? So up until this point, Memphis Championship Wrestling, every time they came to New Bern, they were drawing 30, 40 people. It was a tough road for them,
Right.
you know? Well, we get to that night, and like I said, he has us get in the ring, and he showed us a little bit, trained a little bit, like just very, very minimal stuff. And he's like, okay, that'll work. You know, that'll work. And it turned out that intermission match, like he had said, was actually semi-main event. And when I went out there, there was 200 people out there.
I remember that. I remember that show. I remember that crowd, dude. It was packed. The whole house was packed, man.
Yeah. And like the thing when Terry protected the business, because like he didn't let us in the locker room with the William Regals and the Daniel Bryans and all that kind of stuff. He put us in our own locker room on the other side of the building. But sure enough, we were semi-main event. And we went out there and did our thing. And there was very little psychology to it. We were just out there kind of just doing spots and moves back and forth to each other. But I mean, it went okay, you know. And after the matches and stuff like that, the greatest thing ever was William Regal came up to me, and he was like, you know, he's like, when you kick out, bloody kick out, because I was doing the Ric Flair 1, 2, oh, barely got my shoulder up, but I was doing it on every single pin. So he came out and told me that bit of information, but it was just fun that he came and actually, because he started when he was young too, and he couldn't fault us for starting out or taking an opportunity. So he just came out and he gave me some advice, and it was actually really good advice.
Yeah, Regal's was one of the coolest dudes, man, that I ever met. He was, man, he would always talk to you, and was cool. He was just cool, man. You know, here's the thing. I'm sure you've experienced this. Sometimes you meet stars, and the minute you meet them, boom, your opinion of them drops all the way to the ground. Other guys, you meet them, and your opinion just soars. William Regal is one of them guys that I was already a fan, man. I love the British style wrestling anyway, and I was already a fan. And then once I got to meet Regal, man, he was just cool. He was just a cool guy, humble. My opinion of that dude, just I mean, to this day, he's the tops with me, dude. It's, you know, he's the tops with me.
Absolutely. It's just hard to be like, I've been a fan of wrestling my whole life, right?
Me
So
too.
like when I was a kid, like I thought every professional wrestler was a star. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know I honestly did not know the difference between Hulk Hogan and Coco Ware. You know what I mean? To me, they were both professional wrestlers, so they were both stars in my mind. Yeah, Hogan was the champ, but Coco Ware was Coco Ware.
Right.
Right. So like I didn't know the difference. So like, you know, when you grow up a fan your entire life and you admire so many guys, because there's a lot of guys that I love their work in professional wrestling. I love whatever they're doing. And then you get to meet some of them, and some of them do disappoint you. And it's a tough road to go at sometimes, but you know, it's just part of it.
Yeah. It's just a smartening up to the business, man. It ain't no different than in life, man. You meet some people in life, and you know, they just make a bad impression. Other people make awesome impressions. So look, talk to me about the first night, the first match there, 200 people out there. Y'all go out. Was you nervous?
Oh, ridiculously nervous. Like, and I've always kind of been a ham growing up. You know, I used to dance for my family and tell jokes and, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, I was that kind of kid, but like, yeah, walking out in front of people like that and wrestling, you know, it was nerve wracking, you know what I mean? And like, I was supposed to be the heel, but like, you wouldn't have known that by anything that I did, because I didn't really talk trash to anybody. I just kind of walked out like I was, you know, a badass, but I was, you know, 5'8" and 100 and probably 70 pounds at this point. But, you know, I went out there, we did our thing. And then that was, man, as they say, the rest is history. There's no way I couldn't have been a professional wrestler after that, because I was definitely bitten. If I wasn't bitten before, I knew I always wanted to do it. But then after doing that, you know what I mean? Like it was over. Like I was absolutely going to be a professional wrestler then.
Well, I remember you when you probably 2001 or so. I remember you were starting to get out and get around. Here's the thing. You were always good in the ring. From what I seen, the first time I seen you, you were good in the ring. So after that first little match there, did you go get some training, or was it just you just learned on the fly?
Well, it was a little bit of both. I mean, what we did was we did the Memphis thing for a little bit, and then of course, Terry lost the developmental deal, and then like I didn't know this until recently, but Terry had told me that he basically got out of the business to raise his son, which I didn't know, and I thought was very, very admirable. So
Right.
when he got out, we kind of caught on with Warriors of Wrestling NWA Mid South, which was ran by Alva Minnick and Jim Princeton. You know what I mean? And that's when we started getting training. First was Rude from Naughty by Nature. He showed us a lot, and then eventually, it kind of filtered into where Motley was doing the training.
Right.
You know what I mean? So then we got stuff from Motley, and just gradually. And I was always the kind of guy that once I'm latched onto something, I want to know everything. You know what I mean? I want to learn everything. So as these people are training me, and as I'm getting to wrestle, and I'm trying to apply all these things that I'm learning, I would put my match together with whoever I was working with, and then I would go sit with every other match and listen to them put their matches together. You know what I mean? And I would hear everyone else's thought processes about what they're doing and why they're doing it, and all that kind of stuff just kind of started sponging. You know what I mean? And then eventually it got to the point to where I'd be sitting there and listening to someone go over their match, and they kind of be stuck for a second, and they go, well, they'd look at me and go, what would you do? And then I started pitching ideas. I said, I see it like this. And they go, oh yeah, that works. And then, it started happening like that. And that was a huge, I've always been a creative person. So for me, that was a great outlet to have. And I was really appreciative that guys, actually gave me that opportunity to help their matches when they didn't have to ask me anything.
Right. And wrestling, man, it to me, it's fueled by creativity. I mean,
Yeah.
it just is. It's a perfect outlet. If you're a creative person, man, wrestling's perfect for you, because you can kind of do anything you want if you mold it and set it up right, man. Well, take me through maybe your first year. Like, once y'all had that match, take me through your first year of how it was going around, starting to go to different places and wrestle, meeting different people. Was it what you thought it would be?
I mean, pretty much. I mean, it was, we were doing the stuff, like I said, for Warriors of Wrestling and NWA Mid South. And, I actually got to win my first title, which was the NWA Southern Junior Heavyweight title, which actually that title is now, the lineage of it is part of Pro Wrestling Mid South. So, and that lineage goes all the way back to 1939. So,
Wow.
that was something big for me. But, just being able to sit in the locker rooms and hear guys talk and, learn that kind of thing. I really didn't get to get out as much as people think. I was so excited to be a part of wrestling. I was just so happy to be a part of it. We got to do that. And then eventually, Tony Falk needed some guys in Kentucky, in Paducah on Sunday nights. And I got an opportunity to go up there and work for him. And same thing, it was a great opportunity. And I got to go up there and learn from Tony Falk and Gypsy Joe. And there was a big guy named Lone Star. I don't know if you remember him or not, but he was like 6'7".
Blonde
and like
guy, bleach blonde.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
He would pick me up like this and then just walk out from under me and drop me on my face. That was always fun from 7 foot in the air.
Right. I'm pretty sure he was a moon dog at one time. I think Larry brought him in and made him a moon dog in Osceola for a little while, man.
Larry tried to make me a moon dog.
He never tried to make me a moon dog. And when I was young, I didn't see it. But as I've gotten older and thought about it, I had the long hair, redheaded. I thought, man, it might would have been something to try.
I honestly, I kind of, kick myself for that. I've been the golden boy my entire career. I added the Greg Anthony several years after, but there was a point where he wanted me to be a moon dog. He wanted me to be like Scrappy because I was the little moon dog. Right.
I can see it, dude.
Right.
I
wish I would have done it, but back then I turned it down because I was really set on the golden boy thing. But I mean, I wish I would just done it for a year or something like that, just to say that I did it. But,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I love Larry. Like he treated me with a lot of respect, and like, he was tough as they come. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was in a program with him very early on, and we were supposed to do a pull apart, and so we get tied up, and all the guys come to pull us apart, and Larry has 2 handfuls of my hair, right? And like, you don't know this about me, but I'm very, very tender-headed. Very tender-headed. So like he's got 2 handfuls of this hair, and everyone's trying to pull us apart, and they're yanking on my head pretty much,
Right.
trying to pull us apart, and I'm crying. Like I'm in the ring, I'm crying because it hurts so bad, right? And and then eventually, Larry, releases me, and I get to the back, and of course I get to the back, and no one's in the locker room because everyone's out in the pull apart, right?
Right.
Well, I get to the back, and I just kind of wipe my tears away and like clean myself up a little bit. And by the time Larry got back there, he's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "I really had a hold of you out there," and I was like, "Yes, sir, I'm fine, thank you."
Yeah, Larry, he don't get the credit he deserves, I don't think, for being. Look, I mean, the Moondog was one thing, but he could actually get in the ring and wrestle, and he was, man, truthfully, he was on the genius level, I think, at just knowing this business and putting shows together. And here's the thing: he was able. A lot of times he could take nothing and make something out of it that actually worked and drew money. I learned so much from Moondog that I didn't even realize what I did learn until I started getting older, and just I realized, man, damn, he taught me so much that I didn't even know he was teaching me. And Tony Falk, dude, how'd you like working with Tony? He actually trained me. Him and Jeff Jarrett actually were my trainers.
Really? Yeah,
Yes,
I love Tony. I mean, he was an old school guy. He had a lot of those really good Southern finishes that that I had seen, but I had forgot about maybe, or, maybe I'd never seen before, but something that was, once you actually look at it and break it down, they were just so smart, so I've actually stolen a lot of his finishes from those Paducah days, several times, but he was great. I mean, he always treated me with respect. He recognized, like you said, that that I was a good in-ring talent, and he always put me over. Like I saw him at Bob Eaton's funeral was the last time I saw him, and I had said something about Boy Tony. He's like, I was in the business for 40 years, and all they remember me for is the 6 months I was Boy Tony. I was like, it isn't great that they remember you though, and he's like, you're right. So I love Tony Falk.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. Easygoing dude. I don't know that Tony ever gets upset, man. Of course, now I hadn't seen him in years and years.
Now that you say that, no, I've never seen him asked up about anything.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. Real good dude. So look, we're gonna jump ahead a little bit to Pro Wrestling Mid-South. Now you've been out, you've been wrestling everywhere, going all over the place. Obviously, we've seen it, man. I was gonna try to kind of come up with all the titles you had held, but dude, there was just so many. I just gave up on it. I didn't know. I mean, tell me something. Do you know how many titles you've held?
Well, a couple years ago, a guy named I think Brian Westcott, I think is his name. He's part of the Cauliflower Alley Club. I met him through that out in Vegas, and that's his thing. He keeps up with everybody's title history and all that kind of stuff. And I think he had accumulated at one time. I think we counted, it was something like 85 title reigns or something like that.
Man, like I said, you're one of the most decorated dudes in the wrestling business, especially around our area. So you're out wrestling, and then it comes time. What was the catalyst to make you decide, hey, man, I want to go on and start my own company?
Well, so, we were, it just got to a point in Dyersburg in this area where there was a lot of bad stuff going on. There was alcohol, there was drugs, there was pedophile stuff going on. And
right.
No one was really addressing it. No one was ever doing it. I would go to Walmart and I would talk to people, and I would tell people, hey, I'm a professional wrestler. And they would kind of sneer their nose at me, like, really? Because it had that kind of reputation in our area. Right. So there was about a 7-8 year period where I didn't wrestle at all in Dyersburg. maybe like once or twice, like as benefit shows or something like that. But I didn't do anything, you know, uh, week to week. So during that time period, I got the opportunity to tag with Bobby Eaton, and eventually that led to TCW, Traditional Championship Wrestling, which was, we were available in 50 million homes at one point.
Dude,
And that,
I
go ahead.
love TCW, man. I was living in Arkansas at the time, living in Marktree, and it used to come on, man. At that time, it was truthfully at that time, I think it was the best pro wrestling product on TV, maybe even including the big boys at the time, because it was good professional wrestling, man.
Man, we were really proud of it. And like that roster, Riviera put together one of the greatest rosters I've ever seen of guys. I mean, it was just top to bottom. Everyone that's a top guy in whatever area you're talking about, I guarantee they were part of TCW at some point. You know what I mean? But
Right.
like TCW is one of those things. It was so big, but we couldn't get over that hump. Like if you're not there's a southern bias in professional wrestling. I don't know if anyone ever really talks about it, but a lot of things. If you're not above the Mason Dixon line, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like a lot of the magazines at the time, and a lot of the websites, and a lot of the people that control, what's hot or who has buzz and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? They're just not going to help you out.
Right.
And that's really what we needed to get over the hump we were at. And it just became too big of a thing for Riviera um to do on his own. You know what I mean? Like he was just so burned out. I mean, at the end of TCW, I mean, I think he was like 260, 270 pounds, and like he wasn't even wrestling on his own shows. You know,
Right.
so it was time for him because he needed to get away from it for his own health and things of that nature. So he was like, well, we're gonna end TCW, and we were kind of getting in with the NWA at the time. So, and me and Riviera were tagging. So, I was like, well, this would be a perfect time for me to start, my own company, you know, because I wanted to clean up the perception of what professional wrestling was here, So, and being at that during this time period, I got to travel to the Carolinas and Texas and California and all those places and see how other professional wrestling is done and presented. And I was like, I want to do a family friendly show. I want to do something where, you can bring your 7-year-old daughter or your 7-year-old grandmother, and you're not going to hear anything out of the way. Nothing's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we can present professional wrestling in that manner. So that was really the catalyst for everything, was just trying to, because I could have done two things. When TCW ended, I could have went this route and tried to get booked for as long as I could on as many shows as I could for this rate, whatever I was charging, and
Right.
try to progress and try to do that. Or I could go this route. I could start my own company, and I could start building something here that I could, that I would be in control of my own destiny, kind of thing. And that was a lot more appealing to me. You know what I mean? And obviously, at the time I had 2 small kids, and like, the TCW stuff, I would drive 6 hours. I would get up early Saturday mornings and have to drive 6 hours to a 9 a.m. production meeting,
Right.
you know, go through all production, go through the whole day, put people's matches together, wrestle my own matches, get done about midnight, and then I have to turn around and drive all the way back home because I want to get a few hours sleep, then get up and spend time with the kids. And I redlined that for that entire TCW time like that. So for me, the ability to have a show here in Dyersburg where we can start at 7:30 and we can end at 9:30 and I can be
Right.
home at 10:30, you know what I mean? Like that was a huge thing for me, with having the kids and the family and everything else.
Oh, I understand that fully, man. If you're an active pro wrestler and you're wanting to be out there doing it, you're not going to have no time at home. It's just
Yeah, I mean,
simple as that. You're not going to have family time. You're always going to be either wrestling or in transit to go wrestle, man, or coming
that's it.
from wrestling.
But and that was the beauty of the territories in general, was that you could wrestle in a territory and still sleep in your own bed every night. You know what I mean? Like, but when you start traveling across the country trying to do this stuff, and it's not necessarily a territory you're a part of. You understand? It becomes a lot more difficult.
Right.
So, I just wanted, like I said from the beginning, I want to create a territory. I want to create something to where, you know, I can make a living at this, and we're teaching guys these kind of things, and I can still be here for my kids and go to my sons. My youngest son is 14 and plays basketball. And I want to be able to go to his games and things of that nature.
Right. So you've been in business 10 years now with Pro Wrestling Mid-South. Talk to me about, did y'all start out with a building, or did y'all rent a place at first and just do the shows? What was the business plan?
Well, the main thing was originally we were in Union City, and it was actually Alvin Minnick's company. He was NWA Mid-South, and he was Warriors of Wrestling.
Okay.
So we were in Union City. We had a building downtown. Everything was going great. And then all of a sudden, the people we were renting the building from saw what we were doing, and then they decided, well, we're going to get in the wrestling business. Like,
right.
never been in the wrestling business before. So they kicked us out and started their own company with the help of whoever was in their ear. I don't even care at this point. But I mean, they started their own company. So we backed up, and we ended up going to help what was all action wrestling, I believe. Yeah, AAW, all action wrestling, which was in Union City as well. We went to go help them, and eventually became Pro Wrestling Elite. And we were doing Friday nights there. And I started wrestling for LAW, which was doing Saturday nights in Dyersburg. And we kind of had a working relationship with them. So I did Friday nights so my guys could do their Saturday nights.
Right.
So we do that for about a year. We were at another building there in Union City, and then the building got sold, and they made it like it was a flea market when we were in it. And then all of a sudden it got sold and became like some kind of clothing store or something. I'm not sure. So that left us without a building or whatever. So like I said, I was wrestling for LAW in New Bern, and things were happening. Things were going pretty good there. John Michael was actually the booker, and things were coming up. And I had talked to the owners about, hey, I'm looking to start my own wrestling company. Why don't I just buy this? You know what I mean? And they were kind of burned out at the time. They were like, yeah, let's do that. So we made a deal on money. The day we went to sign it, about, I want to say 30 minutes or an hour before, they messaged me and say, no, we're not going to sell. So I'm kind of left with, pardon my French, my dick in my hand.
Right.
You know what I mean? So then I was like, well, okay, I got to do what I got to do at this point. So that's when I started Pro Wrestling Mid-South, or it was actually NWA Mid-South in the beginning. So we found a building and just kind of went from there.
So at 10 years in, since you're at the point you're at now, man, was it harder than you thought it was, or did it just kind of come natural to you? Because here's the thing. Obviously, when you owning your own company and running your own company, that gives you even more opportunity to be creative. You can kind of mold everything kind of the way you think it should be or you want it. So, talk to me about the process of going from opening a wrestling company to getting it to where it is right now.
Yeah, anything creative, I've never had an issue with. Like, that stuff comes easy to me, right? The business side of it was obviously it's trial and error sometimes.
Right.
I mean, everyone's different. Everyone has their own thought processes about what works and what doesn't as far as business goes. Every town's different. Some towns, you can buy, a television ad on Monday Night Raw, and that works for you. Some people, you can buy radio ads, but a lot of towns are like our town is a ground and pound town. You have to go out and you got to put out posters and you got to do this, and people have to be aware of your product.
Right.
So that was the hard thing, was just trying to find that niche and what actually worked for us, and finding out how to establish to the community that, hey, we're not the same local yokel wrestling, that maybe you've been accustomed to over the years. Other shows were doing blood and guts and drinking, and, there was, stuff going on behind the scenes that shouldn't have been going on. And,
right.
So now I have to change the culture. I have to change the perception of what professional wrestling is. So that was, the mayor actually, thank God, the mayor was actually a guy that knew me from when I played basketball in high school. So like, that was an in for me to go, hey, listen, I'm doing this. We're not like everyone else. We want to be like this. So he helped open a lot of doors for me as far as at least letting people see that we were going to try to be something different.
Right. Here's the thing. A lot of times it's hard to break the stigma of bad wrestling companies. It makes it harder for every other company, any company that's a professional company that wants to present a professional organized product. Man, it's like armories and schools. It's hard to get schools and stuff now because Lawler and them had them for all the years. That was kind of the only wrestling that would ever go into the schools and do fundraisers. Then when they kind of fell out, kind of the schools tested the waters with other companies, and most of the time out of that, pretty much all the time, they got screwed over in the end.
And see what happens with that is, and listen, I think people romanticize the Attitude Era and ECW and things like that. Like I was 18, 19, 20 years old when all that was going on. I loved it too. You know what I mean? But when the show had alcohol and nudity and very violent kind of things going on, and that's what professional wrestling was. So the other independent companies started emulating all those things.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you go to a school and they don't know any better and they try to emulate all those things too at a school. You know what I mean? It just shut a lot of doors for us. And luckily, I mean, we've got a school show coming up, and I'm lucky we have it, because I would love to have more relationships with schools and with, places where we can do fundraisers and that kind of thing. Because like I said, that's our bread and butter. We want to come in and we want to give you good old school professional wrestling without all the negative aspects.
Dude, Dresden, that's where I live, man. I'm waiting on this show. I seen the flyer.
Yeah.
I seen the flyer pop out a few days ago, a week ago, man. Actually, before I even seen that, my daughter come home and said, they're going to have wrestling at the school. And I said, huh. And then a day later, I seen the flyer pop out for it. That's cool, man. Here's the thing. If you can get in these schools and go in there and work with them, help them make some money and take care of their building and their facilities and put on a good show that everybody can watch, that right there could open up a chain of schools, man. One school have a good experience with you, it's like word of mouth. They talk to the next school and say, hey, man, you ought to think about this. They helped us raise a lot of money. They were awesome. Took care of our stuff. That's really what it's all about. And I'm like, you can't take, look, I think we romanticize pro wrestling period too much sometimes, because we all come in the business because it was a dream. For me, I'm like you. That's all I ever wanted to be, was a pro wrestler. Ever. From the first day I saw it, I was hooked. That's all I ever wanted to do. But in actuality, man, the business is about making money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's why it's a business. It's about making money. And I would venture to say, if you ask Luthez or some of these guys, hey, if you had to do this for free, would you do it? They'd probably say no.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem too nowadays is, listen, of course we want to draw as many people as we can. We want to put an ass every 18 inches, right? But where we get in a little bit of a gray area now in professional wrestling is there's a promoter somewhere that drew 1,000 people and he lost $2,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? Meanwhile, I draw 50 people and I make 200. Right? So I win. You know what I mean? Like, and I understand the thought. Well, he drew more than you. Of course he did. He also lost a lot more than me too.
Right. He went in debt. With 1,000 people, he went in debt. Yeah.
I mean, Pro Wrestling Mid-South has been in business for 10 years, and we've been in the black for 10 years. Well, correct me, 2020, we were not in the black because of everything that happened. But other than 2020 with the pandemic and all that, every year we have operated in the black. You know what I mean? And that's because, I have a budget. We stick to the budget. I know what we're doing. I spend money where we need to spend money, and I cut where we need to cut. It's just the way it goes.
Right. Like I said, y'all are self-contained too, man. Here's the thing. You said you had 20 guys training right now. Man, if you got 20 guys that are actually doing good in training and the prospect that, hey, all these guys or most of them are probably going to make it in the ring and become decent wrestlers. Here's the thing. I see promoters all the time want to bring names in and they think, well, this guy's going to cost me $1,000. Well, in my head, the first thing you got to think is, all right, how much are my ticket prices? And then you got to think, is he going to put that many asses in seats to just make his money back, much less make me money?
Not just put asses in the seat, but put extra asses in the seat.
Exactly.
Like if I'm already drawing X amount of people, is he going to put that many extra people in the seat? Because that's the one, the variable of, should I book him or not? And sometimes we do fray a little bit on that just because I want to give some of my guys opportunities to
Yes.
work guys. But it's always done with a moniker of, well, I'm not going to go, ass over key kettle for this. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to do it to where, maybe I lose a little bit of money, but everyone comes out a little bit better in the long go, because it helps some of these guys too, because they hear me talk about it all the time. You know what I mean? But when someone else comes in that's made a living at this, and they say some of the same stuff I've been saying, then they go, well, maybe Greg does know what he's talking about.
Right. And when you're running a weekly show in Dyersburg, here's the thing. You cannot bring talent in. You have to build your own talent. You have to create your own wrestlers, create your own stars. And you just said a mouthful. Look, a year or so ago, I had a conversation with a promoter. They had built this big show up, and they expected 300 people. And this is where the $1,000 guy come in, and the guy he asked me, he said, well, what do you think about this? And he told me the price of the guy. And I told him, I said, look, man, I've been going to this show for months and months, every Saturday. I told him, I said, look, the way it's built so far, I guarantee you, y'all are going to draw. This guy is not going to put any more people in here than what y'all are probably already going to draw. He's definitely not going to put enough people in this building to pay for himself. And you make any money, he's not even going to pay for himself. You're going to go in debt by booking him. They actually listened, didn't book him, had about 325 people on their home crew. And I don't know what kind of dollar figure they made, but I know they made money. Where if they would have, that one guy would have killed all that. That one dude, if they brought him in for that $1,000, they would have went in debt on that same amount of crowd, where they actually probably made a pretty good profit.
Well, the thing is too, when people sit back and say that professional wrestling is better now than it's ever been, I mean, I want for the ones out there that can do math pretty well. There used to be a thing called 32% rule, which meant that the guys made 32% of the door. Right. And what it was, 32% of the door, but then half of that went directly to the main event. So whoever was working the main event made half the door. Right. And then the rest of the crew split the other half of that 32%. Now, I want you to think about your shows going on right now, and I want you to do that math and tell me how much money you would walk away with, and tell me if you could make a living, even if you got to wrestle 7 nights a week on what you got paid right there.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it right now, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I've got over in this bookshelf over here, I've got Jim Cornette's book where he talks about the Midnight Express, and he lists, all the draws and how much money they got paid for all these dates and stuff like that. And this is 1983, and they're making 10 times what guys are making now. You know what I mean? Like, and when they wrestle in front of 1,500 people, they go, it was a lighthouse. Right. So I mean, people have to take all this into consideration when they're thinking about professional wrestling.
And here's the thing: nowadays, there are a few guys making a lot of money, and everybody else pretty much making nothing. We're used to, there were a ton of guys making livings at wrestling, and there were still a few guys making big money, but there was a ton of guys being able to wrestle for a living, make a living, and make a good living at it. Where
Well,
that's impossible right now.
there's a lot of the guys that are making money are making serious money, and we understand that. But it's everyone else. You know what I mean? There used to be, 30 territories, 35 territories, where if Jerry Jarrett or Jerry Lawler didn't like you, then maybe you could go to Florida for 80 grand and make a living. Or if Eddie
Right.
Graham didn't like you, you could go up for Vern and make a living. Or Roy Shire in California, or whomever. You know what I mean? You could go around the country, maybe go to Puerto Rico for
Right.
Carlos Colon and try to make some money. But now there's only a handful of places that you can make a living at it. And if those 5 promoters or those 5 bookers, whoever's making the decisions, if they don't like you, or if they don't see dollar signs in you, or they don't see any value in you, then basically that's saying, well, you're not allowed to make a living at what you love to do. You know what I mean? And I think that's the biggest thing that I would love. Not that it would be able to, but I would love for a full-fledged territory system come back to where there were 20, 30 territories going, to where these 20, 30 territories had full rosters and full staffs and full everything, to where people can make a living doing what they love.
So let me ask you this, because this is a question that come up a week or so ago on the podcast. Do you think that's ever possible? And if so, what would have to happen for the territories to maybe make a comeback? I have my thoughts on what I think would have to happen, but what do you think the biggest thing that would have to change about the wrestling business for maybe to give the territories an opportunity to thrive and grow?
Well, for one, I think WWE needs a feeder system. You understand? Like, they can say NXT is their, their developmental territory all day long, but NXT is its own brand now. It's on national television. You mean the people that you would normally send to developmental so they can get seasoning before they get to television are now on television.
Right.
You understand? So it's kind of an ass backwards kind of thing, right? So what I would say was, if you really want to make a true territory system, have WWE plant these territories in Memphis, in California, in Florida, up in the Northeast, in Chicago or Minnesota or somewhere like that. Let them be over it, but then give guys like me and other promoters the creative force to do what we need to do and train guys. You understand? And they just use that as part of their filter. They're paying the money anyway. Why not pay us to do it? Right? But they can also help with, if Monday Night Raw posted a thing that, hey, Pro Wrestling Mid-South is every Saturday night in Dyersburg, Tennessee on national television.
Right.
You know what I mean? That would help everything filter down, correct? So, like, for me, it would be a situation, they need talent, but they need talent that is just that little bit different. You know what I mean? Everything is very cookie cutter and we're all trained the same way. We all wrestle the same way. We have a gimmick, but guess what? When the bell rings, ding, 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 I wrestle just like everyone else does.
Right.
So there needs to be that difference, because I've talked to a lot of different trainers, across the country, and we train people alike. There's a lot of similarity, but like I said, there's just that little bit of difference on stuff we do. Maybe it's the order of which we do it. Maybe it's some way that I articulate something versus the way he articulates something, but it's all just a little bit different.
Right. See, I kind of feel different on that. I feel like if the territories ever had a chance to come back, the WWE would have to be gone. I just don't see it. I mean, honestly, here's the thing. Like you said, if they were to do that, are they really going to loosen up the reins and let each different territory and each different promoter train their guys and teach them how to work their way instead? Or are they going to do like they always do? They're going to come in and put the clamps down, and you're still going to be training the same guys to do the same stuff, look the same, wrestle the same.
Well, all they have to do is, look at history. What is the hottest times in their company's history? It was, the golden era, where they took all the guys from the territories and brought them together. They were all so different. Greg Valentine was so different from Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was so different from Steamboat. Steamboat was so different from JYD. You know what I mean? It was all that eclectic kind of thing, if they just had a little bit of foresight, they could see that would probably be the best way. I just think I don't think anyone has the capital to do it anymore. We're not going to be. It's not like the actual territory days when we were going to be able to sell out the Mid South Coliseum. 8,000-10,000 people.
Right.
It would have to be a scaled down version, right? But as long as you're producing new talent, and you're understanding, well, even if someone's injured, instead of just sending them to the performance center so they can just kind of roll around in the ring, send them to a territory for 6 weeks and let them knock off the ring rust. You know how
Right.
much it would help me or any of those independent promoters if something like that were to happen?
I feel like even the guys who aren't in WWE being trained now all try to imitate that anyway. One thing I feel like is missing in pro wrestling, period, is the variety. Like you said, there used to be, man. You used to have all kind of different type of wrestlers that looked different, that acted different, that wrestled different, and all. It's like everybody now is the dude in Union City on Saturday night is basically still trying to imitate wrestle just like what he sees on WWE, and
yeah.
Like you said, it's the cookie cutter syndrome, man. It's not good for pro wrestling I like wild, crazy wrestlers,
Well, yeah.
and we don't see them nowadays.
And like you're talking about, the kids imitating what they see on television. They don't understand that WWE, for the most part, is a television show about wrestling.
Right.
They want to see wrestling on television. And that kind of stuff does not apply to what we're doing locally, at our independent shows. You know what I mean? Like, our independent shows are meant to be crowd participation, and we want you to love me and hate whoever I'm wrestling. You know what I mean? We want to have that love-hate thing. We want people not to love a move, because no matter how good I do a move, there's always someone that can do it better.
Right.
You understand? But if they love me or they hate me, then they'll love or hate whatever I do, no matter what move it is. The opposite of love is not hate in professional wrestling, and the opposite of hate is not love in professional wrestling. The opposite of love and hate is indifference. Right. If they're indifferent to you and they could care less what you do, then that's the death toll in professional wrestling.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times nowadays, guys, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the mentality of just the younger generation, but here's the thing: the greatest pro wrestlers in the world didn't become that great and that famous because of what they actually did in the ring. It's because of who they were.
Yeah,
their personality, their character. And that's when you really connect with an audience, because like you said, if they hate you, then they hate everything you do. If they love you, they love everything you do. And it just makes it so much easier. And I feel like that's lacking in the wrestling business. Here's my thing. To me, wrestling is 100% psychology. Mm-hmm. At the base of it, everything is psychology in pro wrestling. And I feel like a lot of it's missing nowadays. What's your thoughts on that situation?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, everything became very instant gratification, microwave. Everything was like, I got to have it now. Like, they don't understand the nuances of professional wrestling. Like at Pro Wrestling Mid-South, we do a lot of straight comeback finishes. You know what I mean? Like, and that used to be like an actual thing in professional wrestling that served and worked for 100 years.
Right.
Now, you look at professional wrestling, you look at AEW, you look at WWE, you look at MLW, you look at ROH, you look at every kind of company, and it's just finish after finish and high spot after high spot and this and this. A high spot is not high if the whole match is high.
Right.
You know what I mean? A finish isn't a finish if it doesn't finish someone.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just common sense stuff that, we should be able to know in professional wrestling. So for us, we lay a lot of importance on that kind of stuff. Like, we rarely kick out of anyone's finish, their actual established finish. And, if we don't do any kind of head drops, we don't do anything super dangerous. I don't know the last time we had a dive. You know what I mean? We have super kicks, but they're very rare. You know what I mean? We're an anomaly in professional wrestling now, even though, like I said, like, I think we're doing it the correct way, that we're presenting professional wrestling the way that it was meant to be presented.
Right. I agree with that, man. You know, like I said, I don't get a lot of your product, but like I do talk to some of your guys, certain ones and stuff. I do see certain stuff, and I see that in your whole product, man. It's just it's old school, it's basic, it's simple. Here's the thing about pro wrestling: simple is always the best. It's the easiest way. People's going to understand it. A lot of times we overcomplicate certain things, uh, you know, and that's the one thing I like about what you do is you give your guys, it seems like, a solid foundation from the start, a solid foundation in the ring with what they can do, but also a solid foundation in the mentality of what wrestling really is about. You know, it's
Yeah,
not really about just going in there and doing moves for pops. That's not, I mean, that's not wrestling.
right. Yeah, and that's my guys hear me say it all the time. Like, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. I
Right.
feel like we're teaching them to fish. You know what I mean? We tell them, like you said, this is our thought process on professional wrestling. This is how we want to present what we're doing. And then once they understand that and once it kind of clicks, and it's so fun to watch a guy who maybe was that high spot guy, the guy that liked the Finn Balor's and the Kenny Omegas and the Young Bucks and all that kind of bullshit. You know what I mean? It's fun for them to go, oh, you're right. This does make more sense like this. You know what I mean? And completely flip their way of thinking. And we've proven it time and time again, because like they'll do something and I'll be like, did you hear the crowd when you did that? And they'll be like, yeah. And like, was it a big enough pop for that risk? And they'll be like, no. And then I'll be like,
there you go.
There's your answer. You know what I mean? Like, why do that if it's not going to get a reaction? Like, we all have that. Like, even I have stuff that I've done through the years that I thought was the greatest thing ever. And I wanted to do it. And then I do it and it doesn't get the reaction that I was hoping for. So what do I do then? Do I keep doing it, or do I understand, hey, this is part of it, I need to put that away? You know, and that's what I did.
And here's something else about your guys that I noticed too. They respect the wrestling business. 100%, they respect the business. A lot of people nowadays do not respect the wrestling business. They think it's just playtime out there. And I don't view wrestling that way. And I never have, probably never will. When you're out there, it's a serious thing. You're out there, you're out there to do a job. And to me, I like guys who respect the business and do the things that protect the business also. Not just, here's the thing. I see a lot of guys and it's like, since everybody knows it's a work, it don't matter what none of this shit looks like. It don't really matter what we do. If we screw up something, it don't matter. I mean, screw ups happen, but obviously you don't want to, you don't want to be blowing spots through a whole match or nothing. You don't want it like that. And respect for the business, that's part of the foundation too. And all your guys, man, every guy, Blaze Ray, that dude is one of the most respectful guys in the business, period, dude, bar none.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of what here's the thing too. Like, when I start training guys, I make it, everyone has their own misconceptions about professional wrestling before they get in, and I was no different. That first day that I took a bump and I had a match that night, like those first bumps I took hurt a lot.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I didn't expect that. Like, I thought it was, it's going to be like a trampoline or something. You know what I mean? I didn't understand, but like I soon quickly did, after I took a few. But the same thing, when these guys come to train, I make it very clear to them, hey, this can be life and death. You understand? Right. There's been guys that have died in training. There's been guys that have, been seriously injured and can never do certain things again because they didn't take this seriously or they made a mistake.
People are not always the big move that does it either.
No. I've seen guys get knocked out on a body slam. You know what I mean? Like, everything has its thing. I've seen guys arm drag somebody and break their nose. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of stuff that can happen. And I try to explain to everybody, hey, listen, we all know. And once they start bumping, or they start taking backdrops, or they start, you know what I mean? They start doing certain things. They're like, okay, yeah, he knows what he's talking about, because I could see how this could go sideways really quick. You know
Right.
what I mean? So like that's where I think a lot of the respect for the business comes from. It's just because if you train a certain way, it takes me 6 months to a year to get someone ring ready. You understand? So like if you put that time and you put that effort in and you hang around us where we're constantly critiquing each other and protecting each other and like we're trying to make this the best we can, it can't help but rub off on you. You know
Right.
what I mean? And that's what goes back to what I was talking about, changing the culture. You know what I mean? We don't let guys just come in and they're just drinking and they're just having a good time and then they go out there and they can just screw up their whole match and it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like we set a standard, we want guys to meet it. You know what I mean? If you give your best and you don't meet that, then okay, we'll talk about it and like I'm gonna give you advice on how to correct it. But like we're not just gonna, let you do whatever. And I think that's another reason a lot of guys, you know, don't want to work for me or don't reach out to work for me is because they know, we're not going to do it their way. I'm going to have the final say on whatever happens.
Right. And that's something else too. Guys now, man, they just, if they don't like what the booker says, they'll just walk out. Or a lot of times the booker will just let them go out and do whatever they want. And I didn't come in the business that way. Look, you did what you were told. And if you didn't like it, you could always leave, but you didn't go out there. If you did decide you were going to do it and go out there, you did what the booker wanted you to do, whether you liked it or not. And it's just so different, man. And look, I broke in the early 90s. Like I started training in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
And it's changed drastically even since then, and truthfully, kayfabe was already gone then, but guys still protected the business and they treated it as such. Where now, man, it's just like playtime at a lot of places, and that's why you get wrestling matches like you see a lot of times and shows like you see. It's it's a lack of respect for the professional wrestling business itself.
Yeah. And then, like I said, we have no one to blame sometimes but ourselves, these promoters and these promotions that, okay, like the guy on YouTube that jumps off his porch onto different objects.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, so he's emulating our business. That's one thing. But then that guy got booked. Someone paid him to come to their show and be part of something.
Oh,
right?
I didn't know that. I mean,
Same,
I watch him kill himself when I
yeah,
see it pop up, but I had
same
no
thing.
idea that somebody booked him.
Same thing with there was the guys that they kind of went viral for a little bit because they would go to Walmart and they would do spots in Walmart. You know what I mean? They would like cutter themselves off, racks and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And they got booked. You know
That's
what I mean?
crazy.
What does it say to professional wrestling, when we do stuff like that? Same thing with, I know everyone, Logan Paul is great. Don't get me wrong. He does a great job. No one's discounting that. But what does it say about our business that someone can walk in and 3 weeks later be just as good as Randy Orton?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how are you presenting your business to this? When Mr. T came in and wrestled Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff, Hogan was like, "Oh yeah, he's going to do this atomic drop and he's going to do this, this, and this." And Piper's like, "No, he's not. He's not a trained wrestler. If
Right.
he's going to come in, he's going to try to like amateur wrestle us, like grab us and do stuff, and we're just going to do whatever. Because if we're not going to do that, I'm not going out there." You know what I mean? And that was the right call because it would have looked phony and like people would have went, "Oh, what the? He's an actor. How's he doing that?" You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it shouldn't be so easy to be, like that, like Bad Bunny and stuff like that. We're letting celebrities come in and we're putting them on par with guys that have been doing this 20 years,
Yeah. Here's another thing. You talking about Logan Paul and Randy Orton being just as good in 6 weeks or 6 months. What you thought about these companies putting these 7, 8-year-old kids in the ring?
Yeah, I don't agree with that either, obviously. I mean, I don't even know how to articulate that. I mean, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't want to speak ill of anyone's children. I love children, that kind of thing. My kids,
Yeah.
my kids were, that young, and they were wrestling in the ring after the shows, after all the
Right.
fans were gone and stuff like that. But I would have never ever put them out in front of a crowd. And to be honest with you, people have seen my kids wrestle and probably thought they should have been. You know what I mean? But I still would never have done that.
Right.
I just think it makes everything look low budget. It makes everything look bush league, and I just don't agree with it.
So let me take it one step further. So you see one of your guys booked in a match with one of these kids, and he's in there selling this kid stuff, a grown man, and then he comes and you got him set up in a main event at your show. How do you handle that? First of all, I know this for a fact. Your guys wouldn't never do that because they respect the business. But hypothetically, if you've seen that happen, because it happens, I see these kids in there with the grown men, and these grown men are selling their kicks, selling their punches, selling everything, and then they come back later on in the show and they're the main event.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if one of my guys did that, obviously I would just tell them not to show up, and I would change whatever, and then they would probably never work for me again. And that's it's sad that it would happen that way, but that's how it would have to happen. Because same thing with like I liked Zack Ryder. I thought that they were chanting Zack Ryder's name when he wasn't even out there at WWE. And I think that's a very special thing. So like I was always kind of pulling for him to get his moment and get his his props. But then he leaves WWE and he's kind of left to his own devices, and he's the NWA World Heavyweight Champion at one point, and then I see him take a hurricanrana from a 7-year-old girl. You know what I mean? And that just kind of ex-nayed him for me too. You know what I mean? Like it just when you disrespect the business like that, or you disrespect whatever spot you have, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to do business with you. And it's not, like I said, it's not that I don't like you or that I hate you or anything like that. It's just that like I'm trying to make a living at this, and you make it harder for me to do that.
Yeah, sometimes philosophies don't mix. You know what I mean? I have one philosophy, you have another, and sometimes they just don't gel, man. That's just as simple as that. So look, we know wrestling is a stressful ass business, and running your own company has to put 10 times the stress on you, dude. And I know here some years back you had some health issues, man. Kind of take me through what happened with you, dude.
So, I started wrestling. I started having chest pains, and I didn't know exactly what it was. I thought maybe, I don't know. I just thought, you never think the worst, especially at this time I'm 35 years old.
Right.
So I'm not old. You know what I mean? Like I'm, midlife maybe. But I started having chest pains, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. They ordered some stress tests and stuff like that, and I passed every stress test they gave me, but I was still having really bad chest pains. So they wanted to do a heart cath on me, and at the time I thought, well, that's really evasive for something we don't know about. So I'd heard about this thing. It's basically like a 3D scan of your heart that basically does the same thing that a heart cath would, but it's just a scan. It's not where they have to go in. So I fought to have that scan done, right? So I had to, argue with insurance and doctors and all this kind of stuff, right? So they scheduled me for the scan. This is like on a Wednesday, I think. No, it was a Thursday. It was a Thursday. And so I have the scan on Thursday. And when I get done with the scan, I tell them, hey, listen, I'm not, some intramural softball player. I'm a professional wrestler. I mean, if you don't call me and tell me something's wrong, then I'm going to wrestle this weekend.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I had a match scheduled for with a guy named Miyamoto, who's actually a decent star in Japan. He come all the way to Japan for a U.S. tour. I was supposed to wrestle him Friday night, and then Saturday night I was supposed to wrestle Tim Storm for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. So, like I said, the scan happened Thursday. Well, they call me Friday on my way to the show in Ripley. And my doctor tells me, hey, listen, don't wrestle. You have two 70% blockages in your heart, and you have a 90% blockage in your widowmaker.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, you need to come in Monday so we can discuss what our next step is. And of course, I mean, I was devastated. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I just turned, I had just turned 36. It was right after my birthday when we finally got all that figured out. I just turned 36. You know, I'm married. I have two kids that are young. You know what I mean? And like I'm beside myself. We go in Monday. They said, okay, you're gonna have surgery tomorrow. You know what I mean? Let me backtrack a little bit. Obviously I had to switch the match with Miyamoto to someone else when I got there, and then I went out and cut a promo on the Saturday night show and told everybody what was going on and how, you know, I have a heart issue. I'm gonna have to get it taken care of. I can't have the world title match tonight.
Right.
So I did all that, and we went live with the video. So then just everybody, just an outpouring of support. A lot of people talking about, you know, I'm praying for you. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And and to be honest with you, it was the first time in a long time that I prayed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because like I went through a period of my life where I thought I was too smart to believe in God. You know what I mean? Like I thought I knew it all. Like there's no way, you know, there could
Right.
be this thing. And like I just it pains me to talk about it now, to know how egotistical I was and how stupid I was and naive to all that kind of stuff. But I started praying, and like everyone else started praying too. And then I got out of surgery. The thing was too, like technically I should have actually had open heart surgery. Like they should have cracked me open and went in and changed everything.
Right.
But my doctor knew that if I had open heart surgery, then I wouldn't be able to wrestle for a year. And in me being not able to wrestle for a year, the stress and the depression of that probably would have killed me with the heart, right? Combined with the heart issue that I had. So they went in and they were able to give me stents and angioplasty me out and clear me out and give me stents. And like when I came out of surgery, I just had this overwhelming feeling coming over me. It was like the power of prayer just kind of washed over me, you know? And I just felt God's presence, and like I was just changed from then out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we come to find out that actually what had happened was that I have a birth defect that no one ever knew about. Basically, I have no right arteries in my heart. I just have left arteries. So where most people, the blood trickles down and it goes to both sides of your heart and fills both all the chambers and stuff like that. Mine
Right.
just goes around one way and fills out stuff. So like if I would have been blocked the only way that gets blood,
Right.
you know what I mean? I would have died instantly. So it was a miracle. I mean, they couldn't believe that I was wrestling. They couldn't believe that I wrestled. I probably wrestled 2 months with the blockages like that, 2-3 months. So they couldn't believe that one, I did it. You know what I mean? So it was just a miracle that I survived, you know?
Right.
And then what had happened was my doctor, once again, he's thinking about me being a professional wrestler. So after that surgery, he puts me on medicine, but he doesn't put me on all the strength medicine that I really needed, because he was afraid I wouldn't be able to wrestle if I was on all that medicine.
Right.
So the next year I go back and I've got 6 new blockages.
Wow.
But like they're not 90% in the Widowmaker, but they were, you know, 60%, 63%, you know, stuff like that. And it was just another thing where like, okay, they went in again, they angioplasted me out and they stented the other areas. And this time he started me on the full dose of medicine that I'm supposed to have. And since then, everything's been really good. You know what I mean? At the end of kind of like September-ish of 2022, I have a yearly scan now, obviously, right? So I went in for the scan, and they said, "Oh, you've got a 70% blockage in one of your main arteries. So we're gonna have to go in, and if we go in this time, we can't stent you again." Right? They're saying, well, if we go in, we find out we're gonna have to back up, and we're gonna have to schedule for an open heart surgery. Right? So once again, I just started praying. I was like, please God, let this not be there. You know what I mean? Let me be healthy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I went in for the heart cath so they could check it. And the doctor's doing his thing, looking at me and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, he just kind of stops, and he kind of pulls the light away and starts pulling the machines away and kind of stuff like that. And he looks at me and he goes, "We didn't find anything." He said, "Not
Wow.
only did we not find the blockage that's supposed to be there, but you're supposed to have stenosis in your veins around your stents and different things we've done. None of that's there. Everything looks perfect." So, like, if that's not a miracle, then what is?
Right.
You know what I mean? So after that, of course, when it happened years ago, this was 2017 when the original heart surgery happened. I started changing my life. I started praying more. I started, reading my Bible, that kind of thing. I started reading my Bible and all that kind of thing. And but after that last miracle, I was like, man, we've got to do something big. You know what I mean? We got to do something that because I feel like God's pushing me in this direction. I'd always want to start our own ministry. So I had an idea for a ministry called Genesis 32:24, and Genesis 32:24 is, "And Jacob was alone on the mountain. There he wrestled a man till the breaking of day." Right? Wrestling's in the Bible. That was one of the things that
Right.
kind of really drew me into the Bible, was that the word wrestling was actually in the Bible. Right? So I said, I'm gonna have a ministry called that, and I've been looking for a pastor. And actually, we had a girl that I went to school with who started asking me about my testimony and different things, and I told her, well, I really want to start my own ministry, and I'm looking for a pastor. And she said, well, my husband has actually been looking to pastor. We've done youth pastoring for the past 10 years, but we're looking to actually be the head pastor or the lead pastor somewhere. And we went and had a lunch together, and everything just kind of clicked, and we started our own ministry, and we hold services every Sunday night at my building in Dyersburg. And I started doing where we have a group prayer before the matches, before our show, with all the wrestlers and staff and things like that. And since we've done that, I can't even tell you the blessings that have been bestowed upon us. It's been one of the best years we've had the last couple of years, because I really believe because of that stuff.
Right. I'm a big believer in fate, man. And just from hearing your story, man, it sounds like you had to go through all that to get you where you are today, to put you on your path, man. And stuff like that changes your life, dude. I don't know about you. A little over a year ago, I had pancreatitis real bad. My gallbladder filled up with sludge and stones, and it started pushing the stuff in it out into my gallbladder, into my pancreas, which gave me pancreatitis. But it was so bad, my pancreas was spitting the poison out into my body, so it was basically kind of cooking me from the inside.
Yeah.
And I'm a hard-headed dude. I don't really go to doctors. I don't like to, and I sat at home for a day and a half or 2 days, man, in the worst pain I'd ever been in. And I finally broke down and told my wife, I said, we got to go. I got to go to the emergency room, dude. Went to the emergency room, went from Martin, Tennessee, ended up in Nashville. It took them a week to get the pancreatitis down so they could just take the gallbladder. And dude, stuff like that changes your whole train of thought. I don't even know how to explain what it does. It changed me completely. It opened my eyes to a lot of things that they were closed to before, I guess. And it's scary see, I didn't know how close I came until I was already out of the hospital and out of surgery and recovering. My wife told me that they came to her and told her that if I'd have waited another 6 or 8 hours, another 24 for sure, I'd probably have been dead.
Yeah.
So all this stuff is like all that, them trials and tribulations has got you to this point. You got your own ministry started, your wrestling company successful. You are the current. You're back to wrestling, dude. Tell me this: how long did it take you to get back to wrestling after the first time?
So after the first surgery, it was 4 months from surgery to when I came back, and it was the toughest 4 months of my life because I've been wrestling nonstop, all these years. I mean, I've barely taken any time off or anything ever. So that 4 months was definitely the hardest 4 months because I just couldn't do it. And luckily, my guys were very understanding. Everybody tried to rise to the occasion and help the company out the best they could. So, but it was so good to get back in the ring and so good to be a part of it. And just it's one of those things. Like I tell people all the time, people joke like, when are you going to retire? You know what I mean? And like for me, the immediate goal is 50, but to be honest with you, like my goal is like 74 because that's when Lou Thez retired when he had his last match in Japan. So, but we'll try to get to 50 first, and we'll see how that goes.
Well, man, you're back, man. Bigger than ever. You're the current AIWF World Heavyweight Champion. So, talk to me about the AIWF, but talk to me about what it means to hold that title, dude. Because here's the thing: there's a lot of here, as well as I do. Every single small company around wants to have a world title.
Yeah.
But to me, I mean, you've got to have some connection all over the place, and you got to have a champion that travels to really be considered a world title. In the AIWF, man, they're all over the place, man. They're in other countries. I mean, they're huge. So talk to me about the AIWF itself and talk to me about what it means to you to be the AIWF heavyweight champion right now, world heavyweight champion, because I feel like if there's one company out there that could have, or one group of companies that could have a world title, AIWF to me has a legitimate claim to being a world title.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing. Like, well, one, like I really wanted to be the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. I got to be the NWA National Heavyweight Champion. I was a 3-time champion, and I really felt like I was going to be able to parlay that into maybe being the world champion. But there were some things and some people working against me behind the scenes that I feel like kind of hindered me in that direction. So when the NWA thing fell apart, Bruce Tharp sold it to Billy Corgan. We all know, all that kind of garbage. But when that happened, I just kind of, I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to concentrate on Pro Wrestling Mid-South. I really wasn't looking to be a part of anything else. Matt Classic with AIWF, man, he would mess with me every once in a while, man. Hey, you need to come aboard. You need to do this. You need to do that. And it just got to a point where timing is everything in professional wrestling. And it was just like, okay, let's talk. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So, it was an opportunity. I felt like professional wrestling needs something like this. Like the NWA isn't an alliance of promoters anymore. It's just, it's a one-man garage band. You know what I mean? So like we needed something that we could band together and kind of all gather around and say, well, this is our thing. You know what I mean? The AIWF, when I won the championship, the AIWF had like 90 some odd promotions through like 30 countries. And like as of today, I think it's like we have like 130 promotions through almost 44 countries or something like that. So since I've been champion, we've added about 40 different companies, and I think a lot of those companies, some people have actually messaged me directly and said that they joined because I'm the champion, and that they knew that if I was willing to put my name on it and I was willing to represent this brand, then they knew there was something to it. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of really good promoters across the country, like Herb Simmons in St. Louis, and some of the guys out in North Carolina, and just Anthony Wayne over in Middle Tennessee. For instance, we all kind of have that same mindset, like we've been talking about in this interview. And it's fun to work for those guys. It's fun to come in as the world champion and like, hey, now it's like I said, my guys. We talk about how I've kind of molded them and done this kind of stuff. Well, it's fun to go to another promotion and kind of spill my thought process to them too. You know what I mean? And let them feel it. So I'm excited that that I'm the AIWF World Heavyweight Champion. I've always wanted to be a world champion, and this I think is, like you said, it has a legitimate claim to being a world title. It's these companies are all across the world, and I'm their representative as the world champion. So
right, it's cool, dude. Very cool. I love it. I think it's cool. I think only thing I wish it could grow even more. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it become a fully right up there with the big two recognized world title, dude.
Yeah.
It's needed in the pro wrestling. Like you said, the NWA is just a company now. That's pretty much all it is, man. Well, look, Greg, man, look, we're fixing to start wrapping it down, dude. But before we do, normally I pull up some pictures. I have pictures for guys and pull them up and let you check them out. But man, you have so many, dude. You have worked with and either wrestled, worked with in the wrestling business, everybody, every name there is out there. So what I did, dude, I made a little, what do we call it? When you show pictures, but you put music. Slideshow, man. I've been forgetting it all day. I made a little slideshow, dude. If you don't mind, you want to check it out, man?
Sure.
Let's check it out, and then when we get back, we'll wrap this thing up, dude.
All right.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless. They don't wanna see me make it, they don't wanna see me care. Anytime I make some progress, I can see that they compare. I think everyone's against me, maybe something in the air. Am I paranoid? I swear a void is forming and they're scared. I walk a straight path, not many can say that. I like to play fast, cross me and there's payback. You better pray that I don't see your face at any place that I go. I know you hate that. I've been doing fine, I'm not wasting any more time. I live for the fight and the climb, and I think that the pain that's deep inside is what defines. So I won't give up, I'm gonna make it to the top. I don't care what's in my way, I swear I'm never gonna stop. I could fall flat on my face and I swear I won't get back up, cause I don't deserve a thing and the road ahead is tough. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless. Then it's your chance to be ruthless.
Greg Anthony, man, let me tell you something, dude. For a kid who started his wrestling career as an intermission match in Newbern, Tennessee, dude, you have had a hell of a career to this point, my friend. There's no denying what you've accomplished in the wrestling business. There's no denying your talent in the wrestling ring, dude. Talk to me about all of, man. Look, normally I can go through and pick certain pictures. And man, I got to going through yours, and there was just I couldn't choose. There was over 100 pictures right there,
Right.
over that 3 minutes, man. But a hell of a career to this point, Greg. Talk to me about just about that in general, about the career you've had so far, man.
Man, I'm really blessed. You know, what I mean, you know, like I said, I'm not the same guy I was 10 years ago. I'm not the same guy I was 5 years ago. You know what I mean? You know, back then I would have said me, I, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But really, you know, my talent and everything that I have is because the good Lord gave it to me. And once I realized that, things got a lot easier. You know, those pictures are just blessings that I think that God put in my life because you know, I think he knew that I was going to have a love for professional wrestling, so he gave me the talent to go with it because they had said, my doctors had said, if I played basketball through school, but if I want to start wrestling when I was 18 years old, like I did, then my heart condition would have killed me in my 20s. You know,
Right.
so I just thank God every day for being blessed and being in that situation. You know, getting the tag with beautiful Bobby Eaton and all that kind of stuff. It's just been great. You know what I mean? I can't complain, and I'm just glad for the abilities that the good Lord gave me, and maybe that will inspire someone to maybe try to find their way to Christ.
There you go, man. It's like I said, I'm a believer in fate, man, and through my life, I just turned 50 in January, man, and there's always been something that's pushed me certain directions, man. And I'm like you. When I was young, I'm even to this day, I'm not a practicing religious guy, but man, when I was young, I was like you. I was like, can't be. But the older I get, the more I see miracles and see things that aren't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And you know, I am looking more that direction too, man. I just feels like there's got to be something more out there that's directing our lives.
Yeah. Well, I
You
mean,
know,
God said he'll meet you where you are. You know what I mean? If you make the decision, you know, I'm going to give my life to Christ. I believe that Jesus was the Son of God and he died for our sins. He will meet you where you are. You don't have to do it all by yourself. So, I mean, I think that's a strong spiritual message. Like, you know, listen, I'm not perfect. A lot of people like to think that, you know, being Christian means that you got to act like you're perfect. And it's
right,
actually, it's realizing that you're not. It's realizing that you need Christ in your life to do these things. And like you said, when you see miracles happen left and right, and like I've had too many coincidences that aren't coincidences. You know
right,
what I mean? So like for me, it's one of those things. Like I challenge anyone to, you know, that wants to know Jesus Christ and know God and become, you know, a Christian, things like that. Then just pick up the Bible, man. Start reading. You know, if you read the Bible, you know, when I started reading the Bible, it was very clear to me God is love. Bottom line.
right. And the word wrestling was in there. It's like it was just for
Yeah,
you, dude.
just for me, man. I mean, that's what really I wonder if wrestling's in the Bible. That's really how it started. And I searched it, and sure enough, it was. And just something connected me with that scripture. You know what I mean? And the way we run the ministry is basically like everyone wrestles with something. You wrestle with your faith, you wrestle with addiction, you wrestle with whatever it may be. But like you're wrestling with something. But you know,
Right,
we can help you. You know what I mean? The Lord can help you. You
right.
know?
Greg, look, man. Eric Hayes is dying for you to tell this hip toss story before we go. So tell me this hip toss story, man.
Oh, okay. So Eric, of course, I've known Eric since he was like 9 years old or something. So we end up wrestling. I think he's 15 at this time. So we have this match, and I say, hey man, I want to do this thing where I call it the Golden Boy Hip Toss Challenge, right? So basically, like we go in the match, and like every time we do something, and every time I hip toss him, I count, right? So I do the whole shine. The whole shine is revolved around me hip tossing him and counting, right? So what made it so great though was like I think I got like the 5 or 6 hip tosses in the shine, right? And every time I got the crowd to count with me, right? So I hip toss him that last time. Boom, he kind of powders to the corner, and he just made it perfect. He looked at me as serious as he could be. He said, "Quit hip tossing me," and like the people erupted. Right, and so then we did the match, and like he ended up cutting me off and got a little heat on me, and then when I made my comeback, I made my comeback with all hip tosses.
More hip tosses.
More hip tosses. I think I finished with 10 hip tosses and beat him.
That's the only match in history. It's been nothing but hip tosses from start
to
finish. Yeah. Greg, dude, I appreciate you so much for coming on, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was a little nervous. I'm always nervous about doing this, but I was a little nervous how me and you would connect because, like I said, we never met. All these years I know about you, we never met, and you know, I get 2 stories about Greg Anthony. The people who love Greg Anthony, the people who hate Greg Anthony. I don't want to say hate. The people who just don't like Greg Anthony. And I was a little worried about how this would go, dude. And man, you have been a pleasure, my friend.
Well, let me just say this too. If there's anyone out there that doesn't like me or they think we have heat or whatever the case may be, they are more than welcome to reach out to me and we can talk it out. You understand? Like, there's very few people that I'm not willing to listen to. You know what I mean? So, if there's anything like that, I'm willing to squash whatever. You know, we can go from there. But I just, you know, God bless everybody. I thank you for having me on. Everything's been great. And, you know, I'm hope I can come on again sometime because we didn't talk about a lot of stuff, but there's still more stuff that we can talk about.
Dude, well, you know, I started to tell you that beforehand. Right before we went on air, I started because I felt like that if we clicked that. I mean, we could talk for hours and hours, I felt like, and I feel the same way. I feel like we definitely come back, dude. And I want to tell you something, Greg. You know, I've kind of started with the like or don't like, but here's the thing, dude. Even the people who don't, that ain't Greg Anthony fans, every one of these people respect you. You're one of the most respected guys around our area in the wrestling business, whether they like you or don't, dude. And that means a lot in this business. People don't realize that this business is really built on respect. And when all your peers, whether you agree or don't or disagree, they can't deny what you've done, what you've accomplished, and who you are in the wrestling business means a whole lot, dude. And you should be proud of that, man.
Well, I am. I'm, like I said, I'm just blessed, and I appreciate anyone that, you know, has ever taken the time and effort to watch one of my matches, or even the younger guys that have allowed me to critique them in some way. You know, I just appreciate everyone. You know, like I at the end of the day, I'm a wrestling fan, and I just want professional wrestling to be as good as possible for all of us. So,
right, Greg. Like I said, it's my pleasure, my friend. You have a great night, dude.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. All right, y'all. Greg Anthony. I've been waiting on that one, man. Awesome show. Me and Greg clicked pretty good, man. I was worried. I was nervous about that. Look, guys, Monday. We got Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. Monday at 7 p.m. Do not miss it. We're back. Buster Unmasked. I want to thank everybody who watched tonight, everybody who commented or interacted. Thank you, guys, and I'll see you guys Monday.
I don't ever slow up, no, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make